This is MATHguide.com. My name is Mark Karadimos. Today we're going to take a look at the quadratic formula. Actually what I'm going to do is derive the quadratic formula. And if you remember anything from quadratic equations, is that a quadratic is something that's got an x squared as its highest power. So it's a polynomial that's got x squared and it's got single variable. So we've got an ax squared, we've got a bx, and we've got a c. Okay, so the standard form is that to always have this equal to 0, so you just have these coefficients to work with. And every problem you deal with will just have different a, b, and c values. So to solve this equation, there's a formula. Most people have it memorized, but I want to show you how that formula came about. And it involves completing the square. So if you don't know anything about completing the square, I'd say, yeah, you better check out a video on completing the square or read up on it so you can understand what's happening here. So there's going to be several steps and it's going to get kind of involved. Alright, first step, subtract c. Let's get this constant term out of here. So we do that. Okay, so that would be a minus c on the other side. Next thing I want to do is factor out the a. You can't complete the square until this coefficient of the squared term is 1. So I'm going to factor out the a. So if I do that, I'm going to get a b over a. And I get a minus c still over there. So all I did is factor this out. And it works, right? If I multiply this times this, I get that. If I multiply this times that, the a's cancel, and I'm back to bx. Alright, next step. To complete the square, I need to take half of this term and square it to add it right there. Alright, so this is kind of a lot of steps. So I'm actually going to show some of this work off to the side. So I'm going to take this b over a. Okay. I'm going to take half of it and square it, and that's what I need to put right there. Half of it, when I divide by 2, in other words, multiply by a half, that's half of the term. Okay, then I need to square it. So if I were to square that, I would get b squared over 4a squared. So that's what I need to put right here. I need to put a b squared over 4a squared. Alright, now I got to figure out what to add to the right side. Now I really didn't just add b squared plus 4a squared to that side, because if I did the distributive property here, I actually would cancel one of those a's. So really, when I do the distributive property, multiplying those two quantities together, I get b squared over 4a. And so to balance out this equation, I'm going to multiply both the other, I'm sorry, not multiply, but add b squared over 4a to balance this equation. A little tricky, I know. Alright, next step, I'm going to write this as a perfect square, because it is a perfect square. So the perfect square turns out to always be half that term. So half of that term would be b over 2a. Now it's a perfect square. Alright, so I haven't done anything to this side. I am going to switch these terms around though. So I'm going to put b squared over 4a minus c. Alright, next step, I need to get rid of this a, so I'm going to divide both sides by a. So if I divide by a, that'll get rid of it on this side. So I have this, still squared. Okay, divide all this by a, so it'll be b squared over 4a squared. Divide that by a. So I just divided both of those terms by a. So that's a, was an a, now it's an a squared, because I had to divide it by a. Or multiply by 1 over a, same thing. Okay, still getting there. So I want to get rid of the square. So what I'm going to do is take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to show that in a different color. Let's see if I can do that in black. So I'm going to take the square root of this side and take the square root of this side. Remember, when you take the square root of both sides, you have to hit plus and minus. There's really two roots to that. The square root, cancel. So I get x plus b over 2a. Okay. Alright, now all this is underneath the square root still, and it's quite sloppy. So I'm going to do something to clean this up. Alright, oops, did that a little too far. So what I want to do is get a common denominator. So I'm going to multiply this top and bottom by 4a. Okay, because I've got 4a squared here. I need a 4a squared there. So you need to multiply top and bottom by 4a. So now I have a common denominator. Okay, and if I have a common denominator, I can combine the numerators. Obviously I'm going to need a little bit more room. It's quite a lengthy problem. Okay, and it gets detailed. I'm going to scoot this down a little bit to give myself some more room. Alright, so get myself a common denominator. I mean, combine the numerators. I already have the common denominator. So I'm going to combine these numerators. It's all over the common denominator, and all of this is still underneath the square root. Okay, so that square root's still going down low here. Okay, I know it doesn't look like it, but it actually is going covering the whole thing. Well, I could take the square root of the top and bottom separately. So let's see, that's x staying all the same over here. Alright, take the square root of the top. So that's still a b squared minus 4ac. But now I'm going to take the square root of the denominator. So the square root of 4 is 2. Square root of a squared is a. It's coming along nicely. Scooting it down a little further. Alright, so I need to get rid of this term to get my x alone. So I'm going to subtract this from both sides. So I'm going to subtract b over 2a. So if I subtract b over 2a, let's see, I'm going to get, if I put it over here in front, so I'm going to get a minus b over 2a plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Alright, so I've got it all in order there. I've got myself even a common denominator. So I'm going to combine the numerators. Okay, and I think when I combine the numerators, I think it will be in a form most people will remember. So let's see, I get x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of the quantity b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And there you have it. That is the quadratic formula, and that should be the formula that everybody remembers. So if you plop in those numbers for a, b, and c from our original quadratic, clean it up nicely, it'll give you the two solutions to the quadratic. Alright, so there you have the formula. Make sure you go back to MATHguide.com, check out all our interactive quizzes, instructional videos, activities, and so forth. Take care.